30 days. That is how long before American aluminum hit zero. Bloomberg confirmed it. Canada, just 100 miles north, could solve this crisis in 48 hours. But Mark Carney already redirected those exports to Europe instead. Here is the shocking part. America's 50% tariff literally pushed Canada into a better deal. So who actually lost this trade war? For decades, the aluminum trade between Canada and the United States was not just a business arrangement, it was a physical reality. 95% of all Canadian aluminum exports came directly south across the border into American factories, American auto plants, American construction sites, and American defense facilities. Same border, same logistics network, same technical standards. It was so deeply integrated that separating the two economies felt not just difficult, but completely irrational. Nobody seriously considered an alternative, because nobody needed to, until Washington forced one. When the United States imposed Section 232 aluminum tariffs, starting at 10% and eventually climbing to 50% by 2025, Ottawa did not hold emergency press conferences. Canada did not launch dramatic retaliatory campaigns. Mark Carney's government did something far more consequential. It started making phone calls to Brussels, Berlin, and Paris. It started signing contracts with European manufacturers who were already under enormous regulatory pressure to clean up their supply chains. And Canadian aluminum, smelted using clean hydroelectric power from the rivers of Quebec and British Columbia, was exactly what those European buyers were desperately looking for. Canada did not just find new customers, it found better ones. This is where Mark Carney's leadership becomes central to the story. Using the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement between Canada and the European Union, his government unlocked zero-tariff aluminum export quotas into a market of 450 million consumers. European automakers and aerospace manufacturers needed low-carbon certified metal to meet strict EU environmental regulations. Canadian aluminum carried exactly those green credentials. Carney's government did not simply react to American tariffs. It transformed a trade disruption into a strategic industrial repositioning. The results speak for themselves. Canadian aluminum exports to the United States collapsed from 95% of total volume down to just 22%. Meanwhile, the European share climbed from nearly 0 to 18%. The rest spread across Asian, Middle Eastern, and Southeast Asian markets. In less than a decade, Canada completely rebuilt its export geography, and Washington never saw it coming because Washington was watching tariff revenue numbers, not trade maps. Here is the part of this story that exposes the fundamental flaw in the tariff strategy. The 50% tariff was supposed to make imported aluminum expensive enough that American smelters would fire back up and fill domestic demand. It did not work. It could not work. Smelting 1 metric ton of aluminum requires approximately 15,000 kilowatt hours of electricity. That is 4 times what the average American household uses in an entire year. The countries that dominate aluminum production, Canada, Norway, Iceland, all run on abundant, cheap hydroelectric power. Industrial electricity rates across many American states run 30 to 50% higher than Canadian rates. No tariff in the world eliminates that underlying cost reality. So instead of a domestic aluminum revival, the United States ended up with the opposite. By 2025, the entire country had only 4 primary aluminum smelters remaining. Only 2 were operating at full capacity. The lowest figure in American industrial history. The tariff was sold to the American public as a job protection measure. The reality was a job-destroying machine aimed at the wrong workers. The auto sector alone lost nearly 30,000 jobs as part suppliers absorbed raw material cost increases they had no way to pass back through lot contracts. Lumber and building materials shed another 18,000 positions. Independent economic research placed total downstream manufacturing job losses at 98,000 workers. That is more than the entire combined workforce of the American steel and aluminum industries. A policy designed to protect 140,000 metal workers eliminated nearly 100,000 jobs in every other sector, and those workers were not smelter operators. They were auto assembly technicians, construction crews, electronics line staff, and packaging operators. No ceremony acknowledged what they lost. No policy reversed their situation. When Canadian supply dried up American manufacturers turned to the UAE and Bahrain. On a spreadsheet, it made sense. Massive smelting capacity, cheap energy, available volume. But in reality, it represented exactly the kind of vulnerability the original tariff was supposed to prevent. Mark Carney did not punish America. He simply stopped waiting for America to treat Canada fairly and built relationships with partners who would. Now Washington faces a choice with no comfortable exit.